All right, I'm gonna talk about these low carb fad diets we're seeing. Okay, they're getting real popular on YouTube in particular, and I see them and I click on them, despite the fact that I disagree with, I'm not a carnivore enthusiast or a keto enthusiast. I click on them, right? They're controversial. I fall for it, and, and then they get their interactions, they get their ad revenue, right? Okay, no, I'm not. Let's first talk about the benefits of these diets because I'm not saying they're all bad. Okay, if you go on a carnivore diet and you heal an autoimmune disease like uh, diabetes, arthritis, or chronic inflammation, if you benefit from these diets, again, more power to you. That's great. The problem is when you when you contribute the positive effects of that diet to the food you're eating rather than to the food you're not eating. And what does that mean? Well, if you're on a standard American diet and you cut out a bunch of processed carbs and then you start eating a bunch of grass-fed beef, of course you're going to get healthier, okay? Of course you're going to feel better. And the thing is if you struggle with your diet for 10 years, struggle with losing weight, and all of a sudden you find something that works, it's very easy to get emotionally attached to it, right? Food is very emotional. And like I struggled with my diet for, like I said, 10 years or more. I wasn't exactly raised on the best diet. But the thing is, say you're on one of these diets and you're losing weight, okay? You maybe your cholesterol levels are in check on a high saturated fat diet. Now, the problem is that your cholesterol levels may just be in check because you're losing weight. Okay, you're probably exercising more. Maybe you're fasting, but the moment you stop losing weight, your cholesterol levels are going to start rising, right? Because you're not burning that extra the fat the extra fat that you're eating. It's starting to get stored, or maybe you're just maintaining weight. Now, I'm not saying cholesterol is bad, but there's a lot of misinformation around this idea of cholesterol. Obviously, we need cholesterol, okay? We need it to survive, but too much cholesterol is bad for you. And this is just common sense, okay? If you don't believe me, if I drink too much water, if I eat too much salt, you can eat too much water and kill yourself because you drank too much water. So the argument that we can't possibly have too much cholesterol, it's just fallacious. There's no logic behind it. Too much of anything is dangerous. Just like if we don't have enough salt, it's dangerous, okay? If we don't have enough water, it's dangerous. We are only acclimated to a certain range of all of these things, including cholesterol. So if you stop losing weight on these diets, if you reach your goal weight and your cholesterol starts rising, or even if it doesn't, I'm still going to suggest that you start introducing carbs back into your diet. Now, I'm not telling you to introduce these processed carbs that probably were responsible for the obesity in the first place. Okay, it wasn't fruits and veggies and nuts that made you fat. Okay, it was the processed carbs and potentially the processed meat. So what's the difference between processed food and natural food? Well, processed food makes these combinations, okay, these fat and salt combinations and these fat and sugar combinations. Now, these things are not found in nature. You cannot find anything that grows out of the ground. You can't find an animal that puts these combinations together, these fat salt combinations and fat sugar combinations. This is basically what processed food is. These combinations hijack our brain chemistry and they make us overeat. So if you are demonizing all carbs and you're using it as an excuse not to eat fruits and vegetables and nuts and legumes or whole grains, emphasis on whole grains, okay, no processed grains, then you're making a bad argument, okay? It wasn't those those plant-based foods that made you fat. It was the processed food. And so my advice here is to slowly add the fiber back in your diet, the plant-based fiber. Slowly add those fruits and veggies, particularly, back into your diet. And I do mean slowly, okay? Because if you're on a carnivore diet and you're eating zero fiber and you eat fiber, Your gut microbiome is not adapted to that fiber. It's not prepared for it. So you eat fiber after on a carnivore diet, and all of a sudden your gut attacks you. You get a stomach ache or bloating, whatever it may be. You are not adapted to that fiber. So you need to slowly add the fiber back in. You can start with adding 5 grams of fiber to your diet a month. A month. Okay, that's pretty slow. And the reason it's slow is because our gut microbiome does not adapt that quickly. It doesn't adapt overnight. So again, 5 grams of fiber through whole plant-based foods a month after you get the benefits from these carnivore and these keto diets will benefit you greatly. Okay, you'll slowly build that microbiome back up with the diversity of whole foods. So I want to talk about, like, if you're one of these people that goes into a fast food restaurant and you buy that processed meat patty and you throw the bun away, that bun is no worse for you than that processed meat is. Okay, and why is this? Well, the processed meat is basically what we're feeding them grains, right? Why are grains bad? Is grain-fed beef bad? Well, it's not the natural diet of the animal, right? So when we eat caged animals that are being fed grains, what happens is that animal is stressed. It's in a stressful environment, and when an animal is stressed, whether it's humans or a cow or a chicken or whatever it may be, they store more fat. They store more saturated fat. And on the other hand, if you have a free-range, grass-fed animal, that animal is in its natural state. The animal is not as stressed out, and the animal is going to take those nutrients it eats, and it's going to build more muscle. It's going to build more lean tissue. And this is true with humans as well. Okay, so compare the marbling on a grass-fed steak versus a grain-fed caged steak. It's night and day, and the reason it's night and day is because the caged animal is stressed out all the time, and that's why there's more saturated fat in that processed beef, that processed meat. So there's one more argument I want to address here, and it's this argument that basically that the grain industry is lobbying the U.S. government in order to sell more grains, and in turn is discouraging the consumption of meat products. Okay, why is this argument bad? Well, let's think about the economics behind this. If you are a grain producer and you want to maximize your profits, you want to sell as much grain as you can, you are going to want to sell that grain to meat producers. Okay, why? Because you're basically adding another middleman. When you eat processed meat, you're adding another middleman between the final consumption of calories that you eat. So it makes no economic sense to say that it is cheaper to eat meat than to eat plant-based foods, because the way capitalism works is anytime you add a step of processing into the final consumption of calories, or the production of anything, whether it's a TV or whatever it may be, you are paying for somebody else's profits. You have to pay more for profits. And if you don't believe me, let's look at when inflation rises. When inflation rises, the price of meat inflates more than the price of plant-based foods, more than the price of produce. Okay, there's this evidence that's out there. So the argument that it's cheaper to eat calories from animals is fallacious. It does not actually make any economic sense. So to end this video, just give you a little advice when you go shopping. You've probably heard this before. When you go shopping, shop on the outside of the store, right, where all of the healthy foods are. If you're going to journey inside to the inside aisles, then you should just buy the raw ingredients, right? Go in that baking aisle, buy the whole grain flour or the whole wheat flour, buy the spices, right? Buy your salt and whatever. Buy the raw ingredients, and if you want to eat a cookie, bake the cookies at home. Okay, what's the difference between a home baked cookie and a store-bought cookie? Well, how many ingredients are in a home baked cookie? You got like what? Maybe milk, flour, sugar, baking powder, baking soda, something like that. and maybe egg, whatever else. There's just like a handful of ingredients. You could probably count them on one hand, one or two hands. Now if you look at the ingredient label on a store-bought cookie, the label's as long as your arm. It's the processing that is unhealthy for us. Now, I'm not saying you can eat cookies just because you made them at home, but they're going to be a lot better for you than otherwise. And especially say you make like some whole grain bread at home. That's much better for you than that white processed bread crap you buy for $1.50. And again, obviously there's the time factor to consider here. It does take time to prep your own food, but again, just when you go shopping, like when I go shopping, 80% of the food I think in my cart is straight from the produce section, okay? And I might journey over, get some chicken, get some milk, get some other stuff, but in general, I don't buy anything from the inside of the aisles unless sometimes I'll maybe have to buy some to prepare for like a family gathering or something. I'll have to buy something in a bag or in a box, but in general, the food I eat comes from the outside aisle, and I promise you, if you follow that rule, you will feel better. So thanks for watching. Have a good day.